So first of all, just like to introduce myself. My name is Andros. I work for CAFM Explorer. And obviously today's session, what we're going to do is have quite a sort of high-level overview of the whole product as it is. Obviously, if you've got questions, please do ask them as we're going along, and we'll either park them if they're not at the right sort of place, but we'll get through all of the options just to show you how the system works, to give you an idea. And we'll take it from there. So obviously I'm logged into a copy version of CAFM. Literally the screen you see is going to be what you would see if you log into CAFM itself. The only thing that's going to be different obviously is this section in the system, and we'll come back to this. Now this is the hierarchy section, so we'll come back to that in a moment, but just an explanation of the screen. On the left hand side you'll see there's these different modules, so CAFM Today Live, Hierarchy, Localities, Help Desk, Work Planner and so on. This is your quick launch bar. So this is where you can move between the different modules in CAFM. Now the product obviously as you purchased has all of these modules available to you to use. The key part to it is you do not have to start using all of them from day one if you don't want to. So as you go through the building process of your system, the key part will be that we'll start basically really in the order that they sort of sit on the module bar. So the key area really is going to be the focus of the help desk. That's really what CAFM is built around, and the help desk is the area where you will see incoming work requests, and from that, or from within this screen, you will then be able to manage those work requests. Now the help desk itself is, if you like, split into two. That will look, and again I'm just going to highlight some of these features, but we will go back to them in a little bit. That will split your work requests into two formats. The first format, and that is the default format, is always this reactive work. So reactive works are the work requests that are coming in today. So somebody has a fault with a piece of equipment, somebody has a hazard, somebody has identified a hazard, anything like that. So the work that is here and now and needs dealing with today. That is the first section, and by default that is where your help desk will always look to first of all. But there is a second side to that, and that is the planned help desk. Now I say there's a second side to it. A planned work order is no different to a reactive work order, other than the fact that you have set up the system to schedule it to advance. So preventative planned maintenance, so stuff that is going to happen in the future. And again, like I say, it's no different to how the system handles it. It's just purely that you can create schedules in the system that will automatically drop jobs in. So whether that be on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, an annual basis, a biannual basis, those sorts of things. But when they hit the help desk, the system will cope with them in exactly the same way. You can see the difference between them, but in terms of the work order, how it looks, the information that's on there, all of that stuff is all the same, whether it's reactive or planned. Okay, but that is really the only difference in the system. But if we start really from the help desk area, and that's always a nice place to start. I'll come back to this section now, which is your hierarchy bar. So this is the area, and you'll see on here I have at the top a globe. That is the company name. So in the company name will be your company. Below that you will then be able to split out your hierarchy for your buildings. Now basically, what do we mean by hierarchy? Well, it's really no more than a file structure. As you can see here, I've got cities plugged into the system, and again literally I could add a new one to this hierarchy at any time. Again, it's an organic structure, so you can grow it as you need to if the business is growing, so you can add information. But your hierarchy is broken down into locations first of all. So the locations tend to be geographic locations, so towns, cities, those sorts of things. Below a location, and again you can see you can just expand and contract these location elements just by clicking on the little plus by the side. But below the location, you then have your buildings. So you can have multiple buildings in the same city, location, town, whatever you want to set that up. Once you've created your building, you can create floors to that building. So you can really start to bisect that building down into really small elements. And again, if I open that up, you'll see you can create zones within the building. So if your buildings have cores, that sort of thing, you can have those built in. And then last of all, spaces. So what you're effectively doing, if you're taking a plan of a building, you can actually break it down into the offices, the public areas, the store areas, access areas, all of those sorts of things. And the key part with this is that you're building your hierarchy so that when it comes to actually logging a job or a work order against a specific place, you can actually say where it's for. So if you've got office 1 to 10, you can say I have a fault with lighting in office number 5, and you can actually pinpoint exactly where that fault or issue lies. Now within those spaces, you will see at every level of the hierarchy there are these folder structures that sit in them. Now at a space level, you can see there are assets, people and properties. Okay, now with that will allow you to actually have specific assets in an area. So in an office, you may want to have the furniture logged as an asset. You may want to have fixtures and fittings. You may want to have an air conditioning unit. All of those sorts of things can be added as units. You could have computer equipment added as assets on a system. It really does not matter what you have in there, but it's all about what information you want to see and what you want to be able to run reports against going forwards. Why do you have assets at every level? Well, again, with it, you see if I open them up, within this area we can have computer assets, electrical assets, furniture, general, so on and so forth. But this will allow you to tie assets to specific work orders, so you can use it to report in the system. I don't know if it's air conditioning, you can actually say I've had a fault and it's with this piece of kit, number 1, number 2, number 3, so on and so forth. And that's the key part to having assets in there. You don't have to have all assets in the system. It is entirely up to you what you want to classify as assets. We have some clients that will use mainly just sort of plant item assets, so the larger things, right the way through to clients that have pretty much everything that's in the building listed as an asset. So that's the first stage. And as I say, you can build these quite simply. Literally, if I close this up just by clicking on the little minuses, you will see it closes it right up. So again, if I was to build a new location, I would always go to the level above. So I would always go to the company name, right click and create a new location. So I could put in there a new location and that will be created. Once I've created a location, I click on the location, I can say create a new building. Save and close. Again, once I've created the building, click on the building, I can create the floor, so on and so forth. So whenever you are creating this information, you're always going above it. How you choose to log your buildings is entirely up to you. If you don't want to go to space levels, you don't have to. If you just want to have buildings in there, you can just have buildings. It is entirely up to you. That the system is organic in that sense that you can create your hierarchy that suits you perfectly. In terms of your business, what do you manage? Do you manage specific sites? Do you manage specific companies going forwards?
Actually, for our condition is to be it's a facility for the worker city. So there is a 15 to 16 buildings are there.
Okay, no problem at all. So in that sense, you could just have one location, and then below that you could have 16 buildings, or if those 16 buildings are in different places, you can have them spread out across that locality. So you can have it organized as you want to, really.
Okay. The location is in we call that's a WRC.
Okay.
So within that there will be a 16 building.
Yep.
So where each building there will be a 3 floor.
Okay.
First floor, second floor, and third floor.
Yep.
Okay. Each floor there will be a 14 rooms.
Okay. No problem at all. One location, 15 buildings.
Within the room, there will be a 10 bed space for the accommodation.
Okay, that's fine, no problem at all. So you can build that into the system as you want to. If you're just looking at the 14 buildings, the choice is yours. You know, you could have your buildings created each at a location, or you just create one location and then below it you can have the 14 buildings. Below those buildings you can split down the floors, you can then split them down into rooms. That is entirely up to you how you want to lay that out and what works for you in the best format, to be honest with you.
We can create these folders, right? Whatever the folders we can create on this one.
Yes.
That means we have a as we discussed, there will be a 16 building, okay, and we have some other building which is most catering building, admin building,
yep.
Like that. So other than the 16 buildings of accommodation using for accommodation, we have some other building not using for the accommodation, which is for catering, admin, and
yep.
for mosque.
Okay.
So this we can separate it out.
You can indeed, yeah, and that's the key to it. You know, if you, like I say, with it, if they're all in one area, you can put them all under the one area in the location, or if you choose you want to split them out, you can use this. Even though, like I've got on here, towns and cities, you don't have to use it for towns and cities. So if you wanted to just have admin, accommodation, mosque, those sorts of things, you could have them split out into their individual localities. It does not matter really in that sense. The key part is that you want to get the breakdown. So whether you have site 1 and then you have all of the buildings loaded under site 1, it doesn't matter. When it comes to reporting, and this is the key part, I'm just going to jump back or jump across to the reporting. The reason you want to have your hierarchy split out, and let me go and find a report, is for this clear section on here, in the parameters within the reports, you'll see that there's always at the top of your reports, it always says, where do you want to look? So it's within. If you click on the drop down of that, you can see, I can see localities, I can see individual buildings. So I can report on faults in a specific building. If I want to go even further, I could actually report on faults in a specific space. So that's why you want to have your hierarchy broken out. How you want to lay it out doesn't really matter too much, but the system will always allow you to report on that. So it may be that you want to say, for example, if I jump back to CAFM, you might want to have, let's say, if I say new location, you might want to have a location called accommodation. Okay, under accommodation you will only have those 15 buildings with the 3 floors and the 14 rooms on each floor, those sorts of things. That will allow you then to actually be able to come to your report module and say, right, show me, for example, I want to see all work orders. Let me just do a quick refresh. I want to see all work orders for works that have been done in the accommodation sector, so you can have that arranged out. If you want to go further than that, you then might want to say, well, actually, we've got a couple of admin buildings. So in there, we'll put, say, admin buildings. And then under the admin buildings, you would have admin building 1, admin building 2. It's just how you want to report on it. If you want to report on the whole site, then you can just run the report back at the company level. So that will show you everything that's happened. It's just how you want to break down that report or that reporting on the system. Again, with it, you'll see I made a specific spelling mistake. You can go in, you can edit, you can change, you can amend those details without any adverse effects on the system going forwards. So the hierarchy side of things, and I can send you some details just explaining that out, just to give you the ideas of how you want to use it really. going forward. So that is your hierarchy. Now, once you've built your hierarchy, that's it really. You don't need to actually sort of use this section of the system again, because once it's built, it's just going to hold information in there for it. What you will be doing though, and this is where we're going to jump into the help desk, and I'm just going to run through very quickly logging a work order, looking at the information that is required. So once you're ready to log a job or take a call to report a fault, anything like that, you will come into your help desk area. You will then come into this main section, and you'll see this main section, this area at the bottom is grayed out. So the first thing you'd need to do is hit retrieve. You'll hit and retrieve because you're just refreshing the link to the database, and that will then show you any outstanding jobs that are on the system going forwards. But to create a job, very simple, right click, new work order. And when it comes to the work order itself, it's really 3 questions that you've got to ask. First of all, who is the person that is contacting you to log a fault? And again, those people can be loaded. You can have a database of people's names. Again, in this one, I can just search on them. You'll see I don't have a massive amount in here. Pick up a person's details. The nice thing about having the person's details in there, we get their full name, we get contact telephone number, we get an email address. The email address is important because the system can actually send out confirmation emails that a work order has been logged back to the person, i.e. the main contact. So once I click save on this work order, I would get an email coming back to me saying thank you for logging the work order and just confirming all of those details. But also with the person, if that person is located in a specific location, a specific building, you can also have the system drag that information back. As is highlighted here, whenever I select mine, so if I clear all of this data out, when I go in here and I put in the surname of the person and I search them, you'll see it drags back this location. The nice part about that is the location where that person tends to work. It's not fixed in stone. I can still change it because they could be logging a fault for somewhere else in the system. It's not a problem. We can just change that and say, well, actually, it's not there. It's actually somewhere slightly different. There we go. And that has then been added into the system, ready to go. Once you've done that, you've got the who are they, you've got the where are they, you've then got one other question. What is the fault? There are 2 ways to create faults. You could manually build the fault. So first of all, we'd need to know what is the work order type. If we click on the drop down, you'll see the work order type is basically the type of work. Is it planned maintenance? Is it reactive maintenance? All on the system. Or if you want to go a slightly different way, you can set up templates. Okay. Under here, I've got an option that says work type. So I'm just going to go into it and say, well, actually, they're reporting a flickering light. When they bring back a flickering light, you'll see it brings back this information. Don't worry that this says plumbing. It's just where this is a test system. We'll use a different option. We'll say light out. Again, as you come through, and you can see it just drags this information through the system. If I clear it all out, just to show you, is it too hot? Again, it brings through work order type, it brings through the work order group. So you can have this information preloaded into the system in the form of a work order template. So all you're actually doing is looking for a type of fault in the system. Once you have the fault, you'll also see it brings through basic questions. Again, this is just a test system, so it doesn't have lots of information in here, but in here you can have questions such as what's the temperature, is it making a noise, is it leaking, what's the actual fault, describe the fault, all of that sort of information. So you can then add further information as is required to the system and add all the information in. But on top of that, if I go to the extended details, you'll see the system, if you're using a template, can also drag through service level agreements. So if you have agreed response times for specific work types, you can have all of that information preloaded into the system. So you're making the job of the help desk operator a lot simpler than actually having to go through and say, right, okay, I've logged the job. I now need to say, what sort of fault is it? Does it need to be fixed in 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours? Is it an emergency? All of this information, all of this detail can be loaded to the template so that it just drops in automatically for you. Now, once you've also got that information, looking at the system and how it works, how does the SLA work? Well, so in this case, we've said this job has a P3 level response. So that is a 4-hour response and 8 hours to fix. How does it work that time out? Well, if we go back to the details tab, down the bottom, you'll see this is the key part of the information, this SLA start date. The moment you open a new work order, that will drop in the SLA start date, as is the same time on the system, and also the time. So if I just close that back again, and I do a right click, new work order, can you see straight away the SLA start date, today's date, and today's time. So the clock is ticking the minute you click new work order. So this is key. This is where it's important that you don't sort of hang around in this section, because obviously the more time we spend filling out all of this information, the less time we have to fix a job. So again, just go back to pick the options, put some extra text in there, extended details. So P3, 4-hour response, 8-hour fix. You can see that measured across here. So just to define it, my start time is 10:22. So 4 hours on means I have to respond to this job. So the response measurement is that the engineer that is going to fix it has acknowledged they have this as a job, okay, and they are starting their work on it. That's the key part. They then have another 4 hours to fix it. Now you look at this time and you'll see in there it automatically says that we actually would have to fix this job by, and this is UK time at the moment, so this job would have to be fixed by 8:52 tomorrow morning. The reason that happens, and it doesn't say on here that it needs to be fixed by 6:22, is because you can control your working weeks. So if you have a specific working time, so let's say it's 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. in the day, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if that is the end of your working day, the SLA clock will stop and it will then restart again at 8 o'clock the following morning. Hence the reason this job pops up showing that we have until 8:52 the following day to fix it, because it's actually working against the working time of that engineer. On top of that, we also can have automatic assignments. So in this case, whenever I select a job that says it's too hot, so if it's a heating fault, it will give it its SLAs. We'll also give it its assignments. Now in this case, the job has been assigned to the maintenance team. That's fine. There might be 10, 15 members of the maintenance team. No problem at all. I can go even further, and I've got my add trade. Well, it's automatically come through. If I go to my assigned person, I could search if I have any trade team members and assign an individual person to do the work. If I do not assign an individual person to do the work, it will just sit in the pot for the maintenance team, and the maintenance supervisor can then issue those jobs out to whoever needs to do them. So those are your flexibilities. But basically, once you have created this, so we've got the who are you, the where are you, what's the fault, we've got service level agreements, we've got assignments. If we just do a save and close, that job has been created. So we've got a work order and it's number 85. Click OK. And in this case, I've got this set to auto issue. So basically, what is an auto issue? So once the job has been saved and created, by ticking a specific box again in the setup, I can then say, right, once I've saved this job, I want to issue it straight out. So I want to get the work order to the correct team straight away. Excuse me, you will see there are default, or there is set to default assignments. So again, when you're setting up trades, when you're setting up contractors, all of that information, you can define If you're going to issue work to them, how do they get the work? Do you print out a work order? Do you email them the work order? Do you fax them, etc., etc.? That you have all of these choices and you can set them up for each and every service provider. So if you've got 20 service providers, you might have 3 or 4 that you email the jobs out to. You might have some that you print out the work orders. You can have them varying across the board. In this case, I'm just going to say no action because my PC is not connected to an email server or anything like that, so I don't want it to error, so I'm just going to say no action. Click OK. We'll give it a moment. You'll see you get a little pop-up notification here that says your work order has been issued successfully. And if I click retrieve, let me just turn this back to all. And you will see if I pick up my work order numbers, number 85. What's the temperature? Tower block, we can see it's open. And this is the key part. This is your life cycle status. So all jobs will run through a specific life cycle status and you can view them and see them on the system. Pending, don't worry about it at this moment in time, but basically the system by default will look at 3 types of work order. Notification due. So a job that is at notification due will be a work order that has been created on the system. When a job is at notification due, you will need to get that job to open as soon as possible. A job that is open means that it has been issued or given to a specific contractor, to a tradesperson, whoever is dealing with that job. And the last area it looks at is any jobs that are on hold. So once a job has been issued to a team or a service provider, they may need to put that job on hold. They may have to order parts. If the parts aren't in stock, it may take a couple of days for them to come in. So you can put work orders on hold. That will stop the SLA clock until they can restart and work on that job again. But you will also notice there are some other life cycle status options, resolved and completed. So the key of the, if you like, the key of the game here is that anything that is notification due, we want to get it to completed. And that's in as quick as possible time as we can on the system. A completed work order is a closed work order, and that's the key part to it. We want to progress it from notification due to open and then on to completed in as short a possible time as we can. So that's the key areas to it. If you see, once the ticket is up and running on the desk, you can go back into it, just to double click on it, we'll open it up. It will show you all the information. Once it's up and running, we can add further information to it. We could add notes. And those notes are categorized in here. We could add attachments, so we could add documents. So is there a picture of the faulty equipment? Do we need to add, again, like on here, add a new picture? Let me just put one in. Let's go and pick one. Okay, they're in there, and you can see on here we have options with this. You'll see there's a section here that says print with work order. You can have automated documents that will automatically issue with work orders. So if you print a work order out for somebody, not only will they get a copy of the document of the work order, but they will also get these attachments on there. When I say printed work order, what do you get to see? Well, if I open this up, we'll give it a moment to open up. So this is what you'll get. So this is the default. Again, for yourselves, you'll see up here I've got CAFM Explorer. You can have your own logos attached to these. But this work order request will come through with specific what is the number, when it was logged, what the SLA response is, when it has to be fixed, etc., who the main contact details are, where it's for, the work details, what needs doing, who it's been assigned to, if we've got costs, what materials we used, any other comments, extra costs, and then we can also get them signed at the end. So we can actually get customers and clients to sign for the work once it's been completed. These can then be obviously handed back to the help desk team, who could scan them and attach them to the work order to show completion details on the work orders. So you'll get all of that information. But if you're printing this out, when you print that out, you would also get these print out with it as well, if you so wish. So by having a tick in the box means that those documents will attach. If you're sending it by email, they will attach as an email attachment, which can be opened by the end user as well. So that's really the basic side of the help desk. In terms of that, obviously we can put jobs on hold. I'm not going to go into too much detail about putting jobs on hold, but the key part is to move any of these jobs from open to closed or completed. And just to show you that, I'm just going to pick a couple of other options. But before we do that, just to show you on the left hand side, you've got this set of traffic lights. These traffic lights directly relate to your service level agreement. So basically, what do they mean? Well, if there are no traffic lights, so this is the ticket I've just created, we're still within our SLA time thresholds. So there are no traffic lights there, which means everything is good. This job above has double blue traffic lights. Basically, if we go into it, you always know, and it's just a warning sign, double blue traffic lights means there are no SLAs attached to that job. So you either need to attach some SLAs, or there's something that you don't, it may be a job that doesn't have an SLA, so you don't need to attach them. But then we get into the actual traffic lights on here. This, you can see on this one, double red traffic lights. Again, if I go into it, go to extended details, we can see that this job had a P2, which is a 1 hour response and a 4 hour fix. If we go to the details, you can see that that job was logged on the 4th of November at 13:13 in the afternoon. So therefore, taking that into account, that meant that this job had to be responded to by 14:13, so an hour later, and it needed to be fixed by 5:13 that afternoon. As we can see on the help desk, neither of those happened, so therefore it's deemed to have blown its SLA. Okay, that's why you will get ambers on there. Reds on there. If it's getting close to failing its SLA, they will go to amber. So if I pick up this job here that we've just put in, and I'm just going to manually change these options, and we'll say needs to be responded to by 10:40, and it needs to be fixed by 11:50. Click Save and Close. Can you see now I've triggered the amber light? So basically what that will do, when you have 25% of the remaining time available to either the response or the fix, that lamp goes to amber. It's just a warning, nothing else will happen in the system, but that becomes your key point to look at it in the system and say, right, we need to start chasing maintenance, we need to start chasing these people, whoever has been assigned the job, you need to start chasing them to say what's going on with this job. So those are the basics of the front part of the help desk. As I said, the key part is to be able to move these jobs from open to completed, and that can be quite a simple process. If I open the job, you'll see we've got an actions tab here, so you can come into it and you can resolve, you can complete it from there. If not, you can just right click on it and you'll see there's an option to resolve work order or complete work order. Two differences. Basically, if you resolve a work order, all that does is stops the time clock. So again, if we have an hour to fix the job and we resolve it, that will stop the clock at the time we choose to stop it. Why do we have a resolve and a complete? Well, the only difference is that resolving a job will allow you to, let me just go back to that, resolving a job will allow you, and you can see in here, put dates and times in. If I click resolve, you'll see on here the system shows this as resolved. If I go back to it, I could maybe go in and I could add some costs. So I could say, well, there's a miscellaneous cost, going to add it in. Click OK. Allows me to add a cost, save and close, without doing anything, any damage to the system or anything like that. Whereas if I complete the work order and go back into it now, you will see on the costs and materials, all I can do is view, I cannot add. So all you've done is locked down the record to make it unusable again. They have the same process, but you may decide if you have external contractors that maybe when they tell you the work has been completed, you can resolve the job, you can leave it in the system as resolved, you know the SLA clock has stopped, but you may want to wait until you receive an invoice from them. Once they invoice you for the work, you could then scan that invoice, attach it to the work order and complete the work order and take it off the help desk. Or you might just choose that all jobs just go straight to completed. It is entirely up to you how you manage that part of the system. Does that make sense so far to everybody?
Do you have any questions? No. Do you have any questions? No, it's all right.
Okay. So that's the help desk, or that's the reactive help desk. As I said, the planned side of things. I'm just going to swap over and look at planned jobs. And just to show, if I click retrieve, you'll see my planned jobs. If I open a planned job up, it looks exactly the same. It's got the main contacts, it's got where it's for, it's got work order types, it's got instructions on there. Just to show that is exactly the same. So planned jobs will be handled exactly the same way. The difference between a planned and a reactive job is that obviously the planned jobs, you will schedule and set those schedules up in advance of when they're going to happen. And then the system can have several ways of handling those jobs. So for planned maintenance, you can have it that on the day it's due to go live, it drops into the help desk. You can have it, as you see here, I've got these set up with notice days. So on this notice day column, you'll see this bottom job will actually, the start date of the SLA is the 1st of the 11th. But because I put notice days in here, that actually popped up or showed on the help desk 3 days before that date. So you can have all of these finite options set up. So PPMs can be handled fairly much automatically on the system. The only part that needs to be done once they're on the system is somebody would need to just close them down. That's the key part to them, but the rest of the information can be set to automatically schedule into the system. So we'll just go and have a look at the PPM scheduling section, and again just a different module. We'll come back to this work plan a bit in a moment. The PPM scheduler, if I click retrieve, on the side you can see this just gives me a list of jobs, and I've got a few different jobs in the system. So let's pick that I've got a boiler PPM. So you create a box which holds the schedule. So in this case, this is the boiler PPM. To that I have added where it's for. I can give it reference details, I can give extended details, I can put assignments on there, I can associate assets, anything like that to the system. But the key part of these schedules down the bottom here, and you'll see that I have an annual schedule, a monthly schedule and a weekly schedule. So I have 3 jobs or 3 PPMs that need to be scheduled for that boiler. One that goes out on a weekly basis, one that goes out on a monthly basis, and one that goes out on an annual basis. To that, I can also have the system set to schedule and take overrides. So basically what happens with the overrides? Basically, when these jobs schedule, if they fall on the same day and they clash, the higher rated job can override those PPMs. So rather than having 3 tickets issue on that one day, we get 1 ticket, but it has 3 jobs on it. And just to show you what that looks like, if I go into the schedule, you can see straight away here on the 3rd So the first schedule, we had two jobs that clashed, the weekly job and the monthly job. So basically what happened, if I hover over it, you can see it was overridden, and it was overridden by the monthly work order. So all that will do, rather than CAFM issuing two tickets, puts both sets of work order instructions onto the one ticket and issues it under the monthly ppm. If we go on a bit further, you can see here we have a clash when all three are due to happen. So in that case, the weekly job gets overridden by the monthly and the weekly then get overridden by the annual job. And that's the key bit, that as it starts to schedule, it will manage those clashes for you. If we just go back to the help desk, so here 7th of November, and can you see what it's done? It's actually, and there's not lots and lots of details in here, but you can see it grabs the information from the weekly, grabs the information from the monthly ppm, and it sticks it all under the annual ppm. So again, rather than having three engineers trying to do bits of work, you could have one engineer that does all of the work in one go. So you can have those schedules. The ppms, again, as with your work orders, can be set to affect at differing levels across the system. So if it's a fire alarm, it affects the whole building, but if it's specific works in specific rooms against specific assets, you can have it scaled down to those rooms. It really does not matter which level you have the system built to, okay? That's the key part to it. So those are really the ppms, and again, the key part with the ppms, get them from notification due right the way through to completed. That will also show you, again, if I go into here, just show you some of the finer areas of it. You can have a scheduled maintenance planner that will look at jobs in the future, and I'll just run it, and this will give you a 52-week planner that shows you your jobs as they're due to happen. So you get your job, and then week 1 going right the way through to week 52, and you can see them. So in this case, this bottom one is a weekly job, so it's scheduled to happen every week of the year. We then have a job here, that's a quarterly job, so the system will show you this, and it uses the color coding. So as you start to complete the tasks, they will change color. They will show you, and you can have all of your ppms listed. Again, if I go to a different building, something slightly different. Again, something slightly different. So on this one, I've got some monthly jobs showing. So again, you can have all of that information to view and see what happens. You'll see on this one, we have an annual and a monthly scheduled jobs. It's all in there, makes it just quite easy to view and see. You know, you can move around with it, you can get them printed out, you can have them up on the wall, those sorts of things as you go through it. So that's the help desk side of things, really, in a sort of high level manner. Any questions at all on help desk before we move on?
Work order, can we use template?
Can you use a template? Yes, you can do. Yep. So your templates, just to show you where they're stored, down to here, standard work order templates. If I click retrieve, and you'll see these are my templates. So again, you can build those templates. What do they have in them? Well, if I open one up, you'll see on here you have your description. You have where it's for, so you can specifically identify where certain works are for, or you can leave it blank. You can have what the work order type is. You can have the work order groups. You can have your instructions. You can have your SLAs. You can have who your assignments are. So you can set as many of those or these templates up as you want to going forward. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions on help desk side of things? No? Okay. So as I said, we'd come back to it and we'd look at the areas. So help desk, ppm schedule. The work planner, what does the work planner do? Well, basically, if I click retrieve on here, what it will actually do is allow you to specifically assign work to specific engineers. That's the key part to it. And I'm just going to break it down a little bit further. If I go back to the help desk and go to reactive jobs, if I do a right click, new work order. On here, work order type, you may have noticed that I've actually got two reactive type jobs. Basically what that is, and again this is reference data, part of the setup, I have reactive maintenance, which is a non-schedulable event. Okay, so basically a non-schedulable event does not have a calendar hidden behind it. Any schedulable events are attached to a calendar. So if you want to use Work Planner, they must have a calendar attached. And just to show you that, if I just say new on here, and if I create a, I don't know, let's do planned schedule works, okay, and in here you'll see it says calendar type. If I click on this, help desk plan, so this is a calendar type. In order to use that, that will then turn on the calendar availability on the system. And the difference between them, if I go to, first of all, if I use my reactive maintenance, so this is a non-schedulable event, can you see on here this scheduled section stays grayed out, so I don't actually have to, within the SLA, so if I gave this, I don't know, let's say an SLA, let's say a P3, okay, if I give this job a P3, I have to have this job fixed by 9:15 tomorrow morning. So this job can happen anywhere between now and 9:15 tomorrow. I'm not too worried about when it happens as long as it's done by this time, okay? If, however, I change this to scheduled, come back to the extended details, can you see this scheduled box now drops in? So I now have to say, right, I want this job done, I don't know, let's say 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock tomorrow. Can you see that automatically fills in? Okay, you'll see also on there, this work order is scheduled to occur after the internal response date. So it will measure, so on here I'm saying that this job can be done between 8 and 9, but it's already after the response date on time on the system. So with those jobs that are, if you want to use scheduling, you just have to bear that in mind, that you're actually plugging a job in to happen at a specific time and date in the system, and that may cause you issues here. In this case, obviously it's saying that it's after the response date. So that's all the work planner is for. But to show you how does it work, if I take this information out for the moment and I'll cancel that and say no, so I will say new work order. I'll create it as myself as the main contact. I will go to, say, a trip hazard. I'm just going to swap this over to a schedulable job. I've got an SLA, assignments. If I add a trade, we'll put facilities in, save and close. Okay, it creates a work order, number 86. Just to show you on there, with number 86, if I right click and try and issue the work order, say no action again, it lets me open that job because the job itself is just opened to the trade. If I now go back to my work planner and if I do a retrieve, can you see this is my job down the bottom, job number 86. Now with that, I can assign that to to a trade or to a tradesperson. So all I'm going to do is pick my trade person, right click on them, and I'll say use this tradesperson. When I do that, it then says to me, what's the estimated duration in hours? Well, I'm going to say it's about 1 hour, and I want it to happen today from, I don't know, let's say 12 o'clock. So it automatically drops it in for 1 hour, 12 o'clock today. Click OK. Again, it just pops up. The work order is now scheduled to occur after the internal response date. That's fine. I say yes, and it drops it in here as a calendar event. Okay, that is all the work planner is for. Again, you've got some flexibilities. Because this is a floating job, I can move them around. You'll see, won't let me start before scheduled start time and date, etc., but I could move it to tomorrow. Again, I get the warnings. So it is just a way of planning people's diaries, but you just have to be quite careful with this. We've had it in the past where lots of people will plan in people's planned works. So, you know, my engineer here could have a couple of fans to do some ppm work on between 12 and 2, but at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe an emergency job comes in. Somebody physically has to go in and move these jobs around to sort them. Okay, that's the only bit to bear in mind with the work planner, but that's how it works. Okay, next to that, jumping past the ppm schedule, assets and asset register. Well, again, I'm just going to click retrieve. So this is where you can load your assets into the system. And again, with an asset, right click, new asset. The system will always ask you 2 pieces of information before you start. Locality, where is the asset located? And again, drop it down, you get to see the whole hierarchy. So we could say, well, the asset is only in a building, or we could say the asset is in this specific space. You then get to choose the asset type. Now these asset types are hard-coded, but in general, most of the time, most people tend to load most of their assets under general. There's no real difference other than it's just a sorting group, that's all. Once you've done that, you can click OK. And in there, it's asking you for a description, a reference, serial number. To create the asset, that's actually enough. As you can see, all I put in there was a description. And that can be enough to start off creating your assets. You can come back to it, and that's the key part with the system. You can come back to this and you can add information as you need to. So description, reference. Well, your reference might be that you want to put your building number and then you give your asset a specific number. Serial number, does it have a specific serial number? You can add all of this information. Condition codes, all of this is reference data and you can add information as you're going along. So what's the condition of the asset? Do you do asset surveys, those sorts of things? Does it have parts to it? What's its current value? Does it have warranty? What are the warranty periods? What are the dates? On top of that, does it live in an asset group? So is it sort of heating? Is it hot water? Is it air conditioning? All of those, you can have it sub-filtered. Availability, don't need to worry too much about on the charge code. Does it sit under a contract? Is it part of a specific department? If you're going to use Room Booker, is it a bookable asset? Is it a stock item asset? What's the replacement date? What's the mean time before failure? Does it sit within a practice code? Is there a purchase order? Who's the manufacturer? All of these codes, and you will see have these boxes on the right hand side that are reference data. You can create this information, so you can put as much effort into these assets as you choose. In the grand scheme of things, the biggest area that you'll really need to concentrate on will be these 3 areas, because this is what you're going to report on, because you may want to see queries or descriptions about the asset itself in terms of what's it called, what's its reference, what's its serial number, and that may be enough for it, to be honest with you, because all you then want to do is tag that against a work order or a job that's happening in the system. That's really in terms of the assets, but the nice area of the assets, you may want to go a little bit further. Just to show you on here, right click, you can add this to barcodes, so you can have labeling options for your barcodes. In that sense, you can actually have them set up so you could scan in work orders against emails, those sorts of things against your assets.
Excuse me, Mr. Andrew, there is a question.
Yes.
Can we go back to the condition code?
Okay.
Condition code, exactly what it shows here.
So in here, your description.
Description.
Yep, so you could say boiler. Your reference, you can create the reference if you want to. So if you've got a building reference, you could say, well, if the building number is 123, you could then say slash, and then you could give it its own reference of 1,000, 10,000, whatever it needs to be. So you can create this information. Serial number, well, the serial number could be different to the reference number. It may not be. If you don't have a serial number, you don't need to put anything in there. Okay, but that's the key part. How much information do you actually want to, or, you know, do you have an asset manager that can keep these records maintained, or is it purely that you need to be able to know that you have an asset that is a boiler and that's its reference number? If that is enough information for you, save and close on it, and that's all you need. If later on you need more information, you just go back to it and you can add or update this information as you need to.
Mr. Andrew, can we print the barcode?
Can you print the barcode? You can't print a barcode, but you can print a QR code, and I'll just show you. So CAFM will generate its own barcodes, and we've, let me just go slightly different way. I'll just show you what we've just generated. So by default, CAFM will generate QR codes like this. Okay, and basically what you can do is scan that and it will match the asset. That's okay. We've done some work just to show you, and I can send you some samples of some of the work we've done with a client recently. If I go into my stuff. So this was some test runs that we've done for our clients. We've created this loading sheet that creates a QR code, which is a URL to that information. Okay, and that will, if I can open it up, let me go an easier way. Give me one moment, I will find it. So I'm just going to let this open. Sorry about this, it's taken a while to open. So here you go. So this is, oh, don't close up on me now. So if I open up, okay, it's fine. And here you go. So this is the label that we generated with it. As you can see on here, these are the fields that hold this information. But again, just a and there you go, that's what the label basically looks like that we've generated for it. We've got a company name, we've got a QR code that we can scan and change. We can, you know, we can really play around with these labels, move them around how you want them to be so that they can be scanned. As you can see, I just moved them into different places. But by scanning this label can take you through into CAFM to actually show you work orders, those sorts of things that have been logged against a specific asset. So you don't need to create that itself. Just to go back to the setup, you don't have to come into the asset in any way, shape or form and put the barcode in. The key part is once you've created the asset or group of assets, as you can see here, if I multiple select all of these, right click, I can just add them to what's called the barcode queue. So that will push them across and will create those QR codes in the system automatically for you to run. Does that make sense? Any questions around that at all? Okay. So that is the assets on there. And again, like I say, you can go into as much detail as you want. With the assets, the nice thing is once you've created them, they're not just fixed in the system. You can move them. So at the moment, you can see these assets. If I right click, or if I pick one of these assets, if I right click and show in hierarchy, it opens up and it shows me where this asset sits. So at the moment, it's sat just under the building of the tower block under general assets. If I right click, I can move the asset and I can say where does that asset actually live, and I can move it in the system and you'll see it moves it automatically across. So you have the flexibility to be able to move assets around the system as you see fit going forwards. I just close that up. So will you also be using, or do you want to use Room Booker? Potentially. So this is the ability to be able to book and manage meeting spaces. Is that something you'd use?
We don't do this. We don't use this. For meeting room. We don't use the meeting room, but we use the rooms booking one.
Okay, so I'll just give you a quick overview of it, what it does and how it can be used. So your Room Booker can be used for booking meeting spaces. You can have it opened up to clients so that people can actually book meeting spaces and you can manage meeting spaces. It is just basically a diary management system. If I click into it, in here you'll see, if I just click retrieve, basically this can give me a list of all my meetings that I've got booked into the system, or I can swap it to a room view. Again, click retrieve, and all I have on here, so in this case I've got hot desks set up so people can actually book hot desks in the system, and all you do basically is pick the desk you want to book for, click into the space, right click, new room booking, new single booking, or I can make multiple bookings. Fill in the details as per usual. Do I want to set times? Do I want to have information in there? Click save and close. Now that's a simple booking. You can add to it. If you've got meeting rooms, you could add diary events into that so that you have calendars available. You could have it so that you would have catering requests available if you wanted to. You can have all of this information. It's entirely up to you how you would want to set up that information as such going forward. It really doesn't matter what you have, but it does allow you to book meeting spaces. If I go back into it, the system will send email notifications. As you can see here, booked by email addresses. In there again, it can send confirmation emails, it can send information it needs to. You can have it linked to Outlook, so it can actually drop calendar invites into Outlook for you. All of these things are possible. This is in the CAFM Explorer version. You can obviously have CAFM Web, which is an add-on web side of things which allows people to access the system going forwards on the system with it, and so they can actually book them. So you don't have to, again, if you're using CAFM Explorer in this sort of sense, then you would need people to contact your help desk and actually physically make the bookings with yourselves. Or if you were to have, say, CAFM Web, you could actually open it up so that end users of the system could have access to go in and book meeting rooms, book spaces, and even also automatically log work orders, jobs, those sorts of things going forwards in the system. So CAFM Web, totally separate. I will show you a little bit of CAFM Web a little bit later on, just to show you some of that functionality. But that's really the booking side of things. And again, integration, it's not the major part of the system, but it can be useful, again, if you wanted to use it. And again, like we said before, you wouldn't have to use CAFM Web from CAFM Room Booker from day one. It's something you could always add in later as you get used to the system and you want to add more functionality. So that's really that side of things. We'll then come back to the sort of financial side of things. Would you be using the system for generating purchase orders?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So again, from the help desk, so two ways to create purchase orders really. Again, if I pick it up from this information, you'll see there's an option on a work order that pops up and says create a purchase order, or I can come into purchase orders. Again, I'm going to hit retrieve, right click, new purchase order. Within the purchase order, you can set where the purchase order is for, so against your locations, or you can have it set against the company. Description, so you can add your own description in there. You can have it set against service providers. Again, service providers, part of the setup of the system. Pick up the information. So service provider, address, details. You have an authorized section on here. So who is authorizing it? And you can have different authorizers with different purchase order minimum limit or maximum limit authorizations on there. Pick up the information. When's the order date? When's the expected date? All the usual same stuff you get on a PO. Customer reference numbers, requisition numbers, and then you come down to your lines. Do you want to use it as parts if you've got a part catalog loaded? What parts do they supply? If there's anything in there, pick it from that. Or do you want to just create manual lines? Pack sizes, pack quantities, prices, tax codes, discounts, either as a percentage or as values. Do you want to charge it to budgets? Do you want to charge it to clients? Information such as that. Click OK. Set them up. Add new lines. Add another line. Add another line. So on and so forth. Get your PO number. That will generate a unique purchase order in the system. Save and close it. You'll see that's sat in the system at this moment in time as unauthorized. I can go back to it. I can authorize it. Who's authorizing it? Date, timestamp, dropped into the system. Save and close. That goes into the system. What does it look like? Well, again, that will generate purchase orders. Again, you could have your own company logo. You have your purchase order number, have delivery addresses, have who the service provider is, order dates, etc., etc., who it's authorized by, order lines, what they are, what the values are. Okay, it will create them exactly as you want them to be created. Just to go through some of the details. Extended details, don't need to add anything into there. Delivery details, well, where do we want it to go? Who's it going to? Who's it addressed to? Is there a specific person? Is there a specific address? And you can have multiple addresses on the system if you wanted to. Are there any special instructions? Okay. Save and close that. You can, as you see on here, you could print it out. You can print preview it. You can have it set so it will automatically email. Again, just the same as work orders. It can email the information out of the system to the specified service provider. In this case, we've got an email address, so we could email this directly out to them. That's your purchase order side of things. You can then flick that over to the invoicing and credit notes. So once the information has been, or once the goods have been received, you can, first of all, add the receipt. Receipt the date that they were supplied. Was there a delivery note number? Click OK. Save and close. Once the invoice comes in, we can match the invoice to the PO. Right-click, New, Purchase Order Invoice. Pick up the PO, put in the invoice number. Okay. When was the invoice date? Again, attaching all of the financial information we need through the system, up to the status, approved, who approved it, and then from here we can complete the purchase order. So we don't have to go back to the purchase order and then complete it. We can complete it from the invoice, save and close. Takes it off the system. Go back to purchase orders, do a retrieve. You'll see only incomplete purchase orders sit on the system waiting to go. We can view old ones, completed ones. We can view discarded ones, changed ones, those sorts of things. And you can see all the authorization information on the system. Within the invoices, you can generate non-purchase order invoices. Again, same way. Who are they authorized by? Service providers. Invoice dates. Again, it's just really a manual fill in, add in okay, again, approve them. You can unapprove, you can change, you can amend, and then it's just a save and close. So you can have both those lines. You can look at credit notes, so only partial deliveries in. All of that information can be recorded and then sent from the system. But it can also tie in, obviously, as we were looking at POs, it was asking where we were charging to. So you can have budgets, contracts, and projects. Now we'll look at budgets because the contracts and the projects are set up exactly the same way. But if I click retrieve, again, it will allow you to have a budget set up in the system. If I right click, say new budget, create it at company level. Again, what do I want to call it? Well, it could be my FM budget for 2017. Budget codes. Again, this is just a reporting functionality. I can add the budget codes as I want to. For locality, is it for a specific place or is it just at company level? Is it funded by anything? Well, no, because it's a master budget. What's the financial year? Well, 2017 to 2018. What's the start date? Well, what are the start dates of the financial year? How much is it for? Okay. Status. I can make it active. I can submit it for approval. I can keep it at planning. I can complete it and then I can close them. So if I make it active, save and close. Okay, go back to it. You can see this now gives me an available budget of £250,000. I can charge to that information. So if I go back to a PO and let's create a new one. Let's pick a supplier, pick an authorizer, dates in, new line, and on this new line put in them, and then I can come down to here, format locality for BCP. Where am I charging this to? Come into it and pick it, and you'll see on here, just to show you, I set it up for 2017. It knows I'm not in 2017 at this moment in time, but I do have some other budgets I can pick from, and I'm going to charge this to test 2016 budget. Click OK. I shall authorize it, save and close. Okay. If I go back to my budgets, there's my test 2016. and you will see these options coming through the system with charges on. Okay, that is how they will report against that information on the system. So they will show as outstanding commitments, as direct committed amounts on the system, ready to go through as you are on the system. Again, with them, going back to the purchase orders, with these options on here, as you see, with the information, just to show you, so I had all of my setup in here at £12 a unit, got my net price, got my tax, so on and so forth, come back out of it, go to my budget. As you see here, my outstanding commitment is 240, and it's also showing my direct committed amount. So basically what will happen, once I have matched and invoiced for that purchase order, this will zero out, and it will just sit in this amount and take off the money from the available amount in the system. So it's watching the figures move as they go through. So if I now go back to it and go to my invoices, right click new, purchase order invoice, pick up that option. Okay, I'm going to approve it. Oh, I'm going to put some dates in first. Okay, complete the purchase order. That's fine. Save and close. If I now go back to my budget, you can see the outstanding amount is now back to zero. So it's showing my direct committed amount. So I've actually paid, if you like, when you have the same quantity in here and also in the outstanding commitment, you've got open POs. Once you have invoiced, or once you've been invoiced and you've matched the invoice to the PO, it will just sit in this column. Okay, taking the information from the system. Okay. Any questions on POs and invoices? Okay.
Okay.
No problem. So the last sections really to look at on the system, and the bits we haven't looked at, all of these sections below your budgets and contracts are part of your setup of the system. So what do we have? Well, people, as I said before, this is a list of all people that can log jobs, all employees, all or anybody that can actually, like I say, log a job or interact with the system. Now, in terms of your people setup, do you have a Windows Active Directory feed that you'll be using?
No.
You're not. So you're going to manually set your people up.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, no problem at all. Just to show you on those, again, a very simple process. Key parts to setting up people: surname, first name, initials don't need to worry about, reference you don't really need to worry about. So in here you would need to have surname, first name, and then the key bits. Where is that person located at? You can actually put them into the correct building. You could put them into the correct space. And also an email address. Okay, those that's it. That's all you need. And also, obviously, if you've got a telephone number on there. Save and close. That person has been created. Who says, where have you gone? Why is my system just locked up? There it is. There we go. So surname, first name, located at, email address, telephone. All of that information, that's all you need for them to create them in their first instance. Same for service providers. Again, a list of your contractors. What do you need from them? Right click, new service provider. Slight difference this time. You first of all need to say where does the service provider work? Do they work for across the whole of the company? Do they work in a specific location? If they work for the whole company, you select company. If it's specific location, obviously. Description. So what's the company name? Reference. Do they have, you can do one or two things. Just copy the company name down. What sort of type of provider are they? Are they a contractor? Are they a supplier? Up to you. Company type. Again, these next 5 fields are free text fields. So you don't have to put any information in if you don't want to, but you can do. Work order. What are you going to do when it comes to issuing the work order? How do you want the system to work? Do you want it to automatically issue? Do you want it to do nothing? Or do you want it to print? Remember I said at the very start, you can choose for each company, each contractor, each trade that you set up, how you issue work orders to them. It's entirely up to you. More details around health and safety. Do they have insurance? All of that sort of information. But once they're in, save and close. As you can see, company name. That then allows you to pick them as a supplier, as a contractor on the system. Document cabinet. Your document cabinet stores all documents. So any documents that we have loaded into the system can be managed from within the document cabinet. Stock. Will you be using stock? Are you going to use stock?
Yes.
Okay, so stock.
Excuse me, Andrea.
Yes.
Can we go to the people?
Sorry?
Okay. Can we go to the people?
Yep.
Actually, we are the landlord here. We have many tenants over here. They are staying with us.
Okay.
When there is a new contract, okay, if they are bringing this many employee over here with us, so how we can add this employee's name in the rooms, and along with that, how we can add that their details like national ID card or passport copies, all those documents along with that.
Okay, so if you go into, you've got these extra fields down the bottom that you can use for passport details. You can add the information in. You've got employee details. You can add some more information there. Again, you've got documents. You could scan in their passport details, their ID cards, and have them on the system.
Yes, a quick question, Andrew.
Yes.
How you can change the name from user code to nationality, let's say, religion or whatever.
Okay, so if you go up to Tools and Options, and there's an option here that says Label Overrides. In the Label Overrides, you're looking for Person Record, okay? Come down the field. Okay, put in what the fields are, save and close. Give it a moment just to load. If I go back into this now, down here, and you can see it's changed it, so you could then put in etc.
Okay, and if I want to, let's say if I'm allowed to have in the room 10 persons, how can I attach their photo?
How can you attach their photo? So you then go to Documents, Add New. Pick up from the file location wherever you've got. Let's make this one a fan coil. There you go. Also make it the default and then save and close it. If we go back into it and come up to here, and there you go. So you can have multiple documents held against that person in the system. Okay.
Mr. Andrew,
Yes.
can we give the restriction in each room? So because as per the government policy, we can only allow 10 person maximum in the room. So once it's reached the 10 person, we can identify or we can make any restriction over here.
You can't. Well, you can. I mean, you can set up. Literally, if we go back, let's go into here. Let's pick. Let's pick reception. If I right-click on here and edit the space, as you start to come across to the area, can you see here you've got capacities? So you can start to add these in. If I save and close that on reception, if I move this person to London, test, ground floor, reception. Save and close. When I go back to this and edit the space, go to the area, can you see it's starting to count up on there? And again, if you're going to use CAFM CAD, it will give you markers for people in rooms, those sorts of things as well, going forwards. And then it will allow you, and it will show you people in rooms. Okay?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem at all. So yeah, so you can use that. Again, as you can see, you can just start to add this information. You don't have to have it set up straight away, but it's stuff as you want to sort of start to tailor your system so you can tailor it down going through the system. Service providers, obviously, as we said on there. Documents, again, just to show you on the documents, I added the new one of photo, and there we are showing us photo in the system. Okay. Stock control. So your stock control is for parts within or maintenance parts or stock items that you wish to order in the system. 3-part process: part definition, a catalogue, and stock items. We'll start with the part definitions and do a retrieve. This is where you build your parts, and those parts can be whatever you want to be. Now, there are 2 ways you can build part definitions. One is that they are company level parts, so they can only be used at company level. Secondly is that you can use them at multiple locations, and third is that you can only use them at a specific location. Okay, so we'll start with a company and say new part. We'll give it a reference. Does it belong to an asset group, class type, part groups? Again, all of this is reference data. Does it have a specific manufacturer? Is there a manual description to it? And you will see the availability that this part is only available now to company level catalogue. So if you create a catalogue at the very, very top level of your hierarchy, so up at your company name, that is where you can use it. Does the part have a unit value? So you can actually put a cost value in there. What's the unit of measurement? What's the reorder? What's the restock? So you can actually have it set up so you can start to calculate and work out your past stock. So we can say we will restock when we only have 5 left, and we will reorder 10 of them. Okay? Click Save and Close. That's created the part for us. That's it. Once we have the part created, we can add it to a catalogue, or we can add it straight to stock items. But we'll start with the catalogue. What's a catalogue? Well, as it says, it is just a catalogue of all parts that we can choose from different suppliers. Go to parts. What should we add in? Well, we'll say new. We'll go and search for the part we've just created. Add it to the system. Change any of the information. You'll see as you bring it through, it drags through all of the information we had on there. And click OK. Save and close. So that's added to the catalogue. Then we come to the stock items. So this is where you can control your stock levels. Okay, you can create a new stock item. I'm just going to go back and retrieve that first. So you see stock items are in the system. If I right click new stock item, again it's at company. come straight down to my part and say, well, I want to look for my new part that I've just created. Do a save and close. And it's sat on the system. Once I've saved and closed it, I can now come back and actually say I have on here X amount of parts in stock, okay? Or I can actually come across to the right hand side here, and you see, because I've created it at a company level, it does allow me to associate that at differing levels on the system. So again, if I just click into here, say where is it? Well, if I say at fleet, I'll say I've got 10 units, save and close. If I go back into it, I'll go to Inverness and I'll say I've got 4 units. And then if I do a save and close, you'll see in total across the company I have 14 units, okay? But that means if I go into it and look at it, 10 units that I can use at Fleet and 4 units that I'm using at Inverness. Because it's at company level, doesn't mean to say I can just transfer that stock straight across to another location. I have them available in only those areas for me to be able to use going forwards, okay? That's the key part to this information on here, how you set it up on the system. That's what will define how you use it. Now, obviously, once you start to use that information, okay, it will then start to close that information down in the system, and then you can start to run reports against stock items. And as you see here, balance at stock take, balance on hand, restock level, reorder quantity. So once it starts to trigger these balance on hands, it will then allow you to reorder that stock by running reports against it. You can also use the stock against work orders. So as you go back to the help desk, if we pick up, let's pick up one of these, cost of materials, stock items. I'm going to add a stock item. I'm going to look for my parts. In this case, I've got some bulbs. So I'm going to say, well, I've used 15 bulbs or 16 bulbs even. Click OK, and you add the stock to it. If you break it down, shows you, in this case, I've used estimated quantities. If I edit this, I can make it actual quantities. Again on here, you'll see, because I've said on this one in bulbs, I'm wanting to use 16 bulbs, the system's actually going to say to me there's not enough stock to fulfill the request. A total of 10 items will be assigned. So it knows how much information and what stock we have on hand. So it's saying, well, you can't use 16 bulbs because you've only got 10 in stock. Okay, save and close to that. Go back to the stock, do a retrieve. And you can see this line here did have 10, it's now 0. So the system will count that down for you. Taking that across to the reporting setup, if we go to stock, you'll see you can run reports against issued stock by work orders and stock below restock level. So you can actually pick that up and say, if I go to there, if I preview that, you'll see there's my bulbs in the system that I'm looking for. You'll see also, if I go back to it, include buying options. Yes. So this will actually, your buying options on here will actually show you if you have preferred suppliers, preferred catalogs, and differing prices. So as you can see, you can have multiple suppliers of differing supplies, but the system will break it down for you and show you that by having your catalogs managed will allow you to say, well, actually, this is a better value to buy the prices from. But you can have all of these reports set to run and give you this information as your stock is taken out of the system. You can also manually adjust your stock. Go into it, come back to here, you'll see you can add, you can remove stock on the system. Okay, so if it's incorrect at places, you can do stock takes, those sorts of things as well, but it will just give you that information to run it around the system. Any questions on stock?
Mr. Andrew,
Yes.
we have some about the pupil, actually, not about the stock.
Okay.
Currently, we have manually generated format for the room allocation and employee details. So with the help of the templates, we can upload everything at a time to the software. Is it?
You can. You will need. I mean, you will need to speak to. I'll get your account manager to give you a call because you will need a license to. There's a separate license that will give you the ability to upload all of this data. So, just to show you on here with it. Now, this is my system. Obviously, I've got a system admin account. If I go to my export toolkit, you can see all of these fields here are the different fields that I can import data into. Okay, your standard set, if I just show you, and I've just taken a screenshot, the standard set of data you have, these are the only fields that it will allow you to import data into at this moment in time. So you can create buildings, floors, rooms, service level, space, so on and so forth. So you will need to speak, or I'll get your account manager to speak to you about the details on that. But yes, you could drag in people. So you can see there's a record there for persons. So as long as you've got it in Excel, you can transfer it to it. And the key part is that you will have to generate loading sheets from CAFM to put the information into and then import it into the system. But it can be done, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, looking at that, you know, as you see on here, everything we've covered today, so from literally work orders to stock to parts to everything on here can be imported into the system. There is no issue behind that. Just need to speak to the account manager, go through the details on that first of all.
Mr. Andrew, that
Yes.
regarding template, what is the important here? Actually, we have around 30-35 tenants. Altogether, there will be around 5,000 employee staff staying here using accommodation facility from us. So in this situation, we have many data with us. At a time, we can use the template. At a time, we can upload everything. It will be more easy for us, so we can save our manpower.
Certainly, yeah. So the key part is, like I say, with those templates. So I will get your account manager to speak to you about it. The tools on here, once you've got that, yes, you can import that information into the system. So it will allow you to just drag that data through the system and get it in. You're not talking about manually creating all of that. Okay.
Hello? Andrew?
Hello, yes.
Firas is here.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, I was not attending this from the beginning, but I just came to know from the team that we need an extra license to do the upload work, right?
That's correct. You will need the Advanced Toolkit license.
Yeah, and this is not part of our licenses. Have you checked that?
It's not. No, that's correct. The Advanced Toolkit is a separate license.
Yeah, okay. And there is no other way of doing it unless I'm buying this license, right?
Well, you can upload, just to show you, obviously, if you can see on my screen now, the basic imports that you have at this moment in time, this is all it allows you to import. So it would allow you to import your buildings, your floors, your locations, rooms, service levels, spaces, trades, work order groups, work order types, work order groups or work groups and zones, but you're probably going to want to use, if I show you my one, so this is the advanced toolkit. That is all the extra fields that you can import to. So everything from addresses right the way through to obviously people. So you can drop your people into the system. The reason it's a separate license is because it is very powerful and it does require a little bit of extra training, because obviously you can irreversibly damage your system if we just gave you the license key. So without any training, that's all.
After the training, can you send me a small email explain what we need to buy extra?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course I will.
I'll take it with Joe, okay?
Yeah,
you can carry on today,
no problem at all.
And I will take it with you after the meeting, okay, through email.
No problem at all. Cracking. No problem.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. So obviously, gents, this is obviously the stock side of things. From there, we've also got some extra options down the bottom. Properties. This is where you can just go into, if I just retrieve on here, again, you'll see you can choose different property types in terms of hazard elements. Are there anything set up against buildings, specific localities? You can add the information. It just allows you to search that information that's there. Your address book, again, your address book just runs against all addresses that have been created in the system. And then last of all, we come down to your reference data. So your reference data, this is where you will create your drop-down code. So if I go right back to the start to your help desk and do a right click on here and go to field chooser, all of these options have reference data against them. If I right click and say new work order, anything with this drop down here, so work order type, if I click on that, it takes me to a work order type reference data field. If I close out of there and go to reference data here, go to code type, go down to work order type and click retrieve, I can add the data in here. So this is just where you are, or will use the system to generate the specific reference data that you want to use and report on. That copies across into your reports. If we say go to help desk and go to help desk activity reports, let's go to by department, you can see lifecycle status, you can see logged from to dates, work order descriptions, all of this information you can start to see. You use this to create your filters. So work order type, what's in there? Well, it again is our work order type fields. So it just copies through the system. Oh, let's go into there. Work order type, as you can see, expenses, planned, maintenance, so on and so forth. We can then report on those. So really the key part is when you're building the reference data side of things, this is what is going to generate and form your reports. How do you want to report on it? What report data do you want to generate from it? What information do you need to get out of the system? And that's what's key to the reference data. The key parts with your reference data, as you can see, it's either available at company or if I say new, specific location. Now, in 99% of the cases, all your data can be loaded at a company level, but there may be some specific codes that you only want to hold at a location. Again, finite detail on the system, and we can cover that later on, no problem, but that is the key part to it. Where do you want this data to be effective to? And those are the modules on the system. At this point, I'm just going to jump right to the top just to show you. You also have available to you CAFM Today Live. So this is a dashboard which will show you the state of your system. So you can see in here, help desk reactive work orders. What's coming in? So today we've logged 2 work orders. We've completed 1. In general, we've got 32 that are open, 1 that's on hold, 11 that are notification due. In terms of alerts, we've got 29 that have blown their SLA. Okay, none that are amber and 1 that's got a review alert. That means it's been put on hold and we've done nothing with it. We've got our traffic lights which are showing us the same data. The nice thing about your traffic lights, so on here it's showing I've got 29 overdue reactive work orders. If I click onto that traffic light, give it a moment, and you can see, there we go, there's my 29, as you can see from down the bottom here, 29 reactive work orders that are overdue. If I reset those filters, we're back to showing everything on there. So you have this dashboard, and it's semi-customizable to yourself, to what you actually want to see on the system. So that's CAFM Explorer. As I said, I'm going to just show you a little bit. I'm not going to go too much into detail with the reports. I'm just going to sort of just take a highlight report on there. You'll see, looking down the list, there are 225 odd reports in the system regarding all the different types of reports you want to run. I'm just going to look at the help desk just to show you. If we break it down, open it up. If I look at, yes.
I have a question regarding this help desk work order.
Yep.
Suppose monthly we need to generate a report based on some building, 5 buildings, and amount calculate. How we can do that?
Okay, so if you have a monthly report, again, you can have the system set up. So do you want to see, and again, this is the key part, like I say with this, what I will do, I will generate to let you guys see straight away, before we go into the report, there's this option here called a standard catalog or standard reports catalog. If I preview it, this is a report that will show you and give you a description of every single report you can run on the system. Okay, so I'll print that out and I'll email that to you so you can have a look at that and you can read through the different reports before you start coming into here. As you can see automatically, I've opened a few up. There's lots and lots of available reports on there, but you can quite easily get lost. It may be that you just want to see an activity report. Okay, so if it's on a monthly basis, if I go to my help desk activity reports, I then go to my parameters and say, where do I want to see it? Well, as you said, it might be 5 buildings that you want to see it on. If that's the case, I could say, well, I want to see it on that building. I can then come back and add a new line and say, I want to see it on that building. I could, if I want to see it just on the buildings, I could actually come back in and say, well, I want to see it on Parity House and then everything in London. Okay, you can play around with these settings. You can then say, when's it from? What's the date? What's the date for it? Well, I'm going to put mine back to the start of the month and I'll run it up to today. Is there a department? Is there a practice? I'll leave those blank. By leaving one of these fields blank will mean that you are searching on all of the data and all of the criteria. By default, it will output to a crystal report, which is the visible format of the system. If I then click preview report, it's now going to come back and it's going to show me this information. Okay, so where's it within?
How about the cost?
Sorry?
How about the cost? We need to see the total expenses monthly for the particular building.
Yep, that's fine. So, and again, these are just the different reports you can run. So this is just how many work orders have I had. If you don't want that, if you need to see a bit more, you've got a cost section here. So you say, do I want to see work order cost summary? Yes, I do. When were the jobs from? Well, again, let's go back. Let's look for this month. Let's again just pick the whole of London. Work order type, well, I just want to see the costs on my reactive for now, or I want to see them all if I leave it blank. I just want to see the costs against air conditioning, etc., etc. You can filter all of this down. Life cycle status, well, at the moment, I want to show it on all my completed jobs because I want to see the jobs that I know have been invoiced. Again, I've got nothing in there at this moment in time. That's fine. So if I just swap that to all, have I got any costs? And there we go. Work order number, logged, notification, what the life cycle status is, what the stock costs are, and this was for my light bulbs. Okay, if I come back out of it, come down to the bottom, you'll see here, with work orders with costs only, yes or no. If I say no, I will get a report that would show me all of my work orders, whether they've got costs on or not. Okay, and this one, as you can see, it's given us 2 pages, and then you end up grand total 7 work orders, a total cost of £13.20 in this case. on there. If you want to be more specific, so that's a summary, okay? Close maintenance with costs. Again, let's just go in, let's pick the start of the month, and I'm keeping the parameters fairly broad because, as I say, this is a training system, so it does get a little bit of abuse. Work order description. Do I want to just see a summary or do I want to see the full work order description? Click preview. I've not got anything in there at this moment in time. Let's have a look back. Is there anything on this one? There we go. And I can see miscellaneous costs. I can see the breakdowns of them. And again, so it's really understanding, like I say, I will send you this pack through with all the different reports on so you can see them. It's getting what you want to see. You know, do you want to see work order cost summary by building? Let's just hit preview on there. I haven't got lots and lots of data in here. So this is going to break it down into one building, two buildings, and then the costs. Okay, if I come back to it, we'll come into the filters, and you can see, you know, you can really start to break it down into the information you want. Costs by locations. Again, let's hit preview. It just breaks it down and shows you the information you've got or you want to see in the system. That's the beauty of it, that you can have 3 or 4 different reports that will show you something slightly different or a different twist on it. In this case, obviously showing you by location and then split down by building. So you have 2 options to run this report. One that shows it to you as a line by line feature, or one that will show you just as a straight out summary by building. So rather than putting several work orders on there, it just shows you a total cost. You can then start to add to that. You know, you can look at, do you just want to see, do you need to see the costs with everything? Not necessarily. But also POs, do you want to match that back to purchase orders? Do you want to match that back to budget? So I close some of this down so I can see where I'm going. Come on. There we go, that's better. Let's close that up. Go to budgets, budget spend reports, financials, invoices with credit notes, purchase orders by service provider, purchase orders by order number, purchase order summary. Again, let's go into the summary. Let's have a little preview on there. Okay, so again, with your summary, you can see it, different breakdowns, completion, incomplete, unauthorized purchase orders. All of this information is available to you. It's really, what do you want to see? How do you want to see it? So the key part with the reports, as I say, 220 odd reports in here, the key part is controlling it by these parameters. But the nice thing you do have, if you're not sure of a report, you can go back to this details tab. This will show you a summary of what the report is going to look like. Now, it will not show you your data. This is purely a screen grab of what the data looks like. But as you click through it, you see it changes, so you get an idea of what the report looks like. So in some cases, you'll see on some reports, especially if we go to performance reports, you tend to get graphs, you tend to get pie charts, those sorts of things. It just shows you what that data is going to look like. So also on top of that, obviously when you preview a report, okay, you are only previewing it on the screen. You're not printing it out, so you're not wasting paper all the time. You get a chance to say, actually, no, that's given me too much information or not enough information going forwards in the system. Okay? Any other questions in terms of the reporting side of things?
Regarding contract details, we have around existing 40 to 50 contracts with us.
Okay.
So in this case, is there any way to get the reminder for the due date or expiry date of the contract and notification or before 1 month of time to be get or a month-end report to be generated in Postgres?
Certainly. So obviously on here, starting off, contract detail report, so that will hold all of your contract details in there. As we come down the list, as you can see, there is a report that will run due for renewal. So you can have this set up in the system, okay? And this is the key part. We have not covered it, and I'm just going to show you through. This is your scheduler, your report scheduler. So you could have set up, once your system is up and running, you would want to say go in and pick up contracts due for renewal, okay? You would then go to your schedule report runner. This is where you are going to set up, very similar to the same way as you sort of run your PPMs can run, and it will actually show you, or it will actually generate a report for that specified option, and you can either have it drop it in a central location, or you can actually have it emailed to you, and that's the key parts to them. So you would set it up and say contracts due for renewal, output format. Well, it's going to output to Crystal. Do we want to save it? If we want to save it, we put it to a local location where we want to save it, call it a file name. Do we want that report? If we're saving that report on a monthly basis, do we want it to overwrite, or do we want to say 12 copies of it over the year? Doesn't really matter, whichever way you want to go. If we're not going to save it, where are we emailing it from? Well, we could come from email, and we could have an email address in here. Subject. Well, again, I just pick up the file name. Whatever you want to put in there for your body, and then you choose who you send it to. You just say new. If we just want to tell them that it's for notification, so in this instance, if we're saving it here, we might just want to say, well, just send them the email that's saying it's notification, okay? Put in there, the report can be found at, I'm just going to save and close that. I'm just going to pick up that and edit, because you can actually put the hyperlink into there. So you can actually say the report's run and it can be found at such and such location. Save and close, and you can add as many people to that list as you want. So we've detailed how we want the report to format, what we want to run from it. We then go in and say, when do we want it to run? So contracts due for renewal, you'll probably want to know a month, maybe 2 months in advance of when they're going to happen. So we come in and say, well, this is a monthly occurrence job, and I want this job to run on the 1st of every month. So the first time I set this up is going to be, it's going to run the 1st of December 2016. I want it to run outside of network hours, so I'm going to run it about 5 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the morning, Andrew. Okay, when do I want it to run? Well, in this case, I want it to run the 1st of every 1 month. Okay, so every month, the 1st of every month, it's going to generate this report, and it's going to run for the next 4 years or so. Okay, that's that bit set, running at, oh, I said 5 o'clock, didn't I? 5 o'clock in the morning on the 1st of every month for the next 4 years. I then go to my parameters and say, where's it for? Well, I want to know all the contracts across everywhere, so I can leave that blank. Period from and to. You don't get an actual date, you actually get month start plus minus end months, and I'm going to say month end plus, oh, sorry, wrong one. Month end plus minus dates. So this is going to run, and I want this report to show me all the contracts that are expiring. So bear in mind, it's going to, the first date it runs is the 1st of December. I want this to actually run 1 month ahead of that. So it's actually going to look in the system and say, right, show me all contracts that will expire from the 1st of January. So to get that, I put a 1 in there. Does that make sense to everybody?
But
Thank you.
Okay, so you put a 1 in there because we want it to look ahead 1 month, and we said we want to look at it in a 2-month period, so all I put in there is 2. So basically the 1st of every month this report will start up and it'll go, right, show me every job or every contract due to expire the start of next month for the next 2 months. Okay, and that's the key part to it. 1 and 2 in there. You could also put in financial years, you could look at budget codes, but all you do is save and close. That is queued up and set to run in the system. Okay, and that's all you need to do, and that's how that will work, and that will just keep scheduling, and it will push out those reports, and it will keep you informed, or your team informed, as you go through the system and through the year. You can have it set up to do that. Obviously that's for contracts. You could have it set to look at planned work. You could have it set to see, as you can see on here, service provider public liability insurance, if they've got insurances against it, when they're due to expire. If we go to the help desk, if we look at general stuff, you know, you can have a look at work order details, work orders logged and outstanding by month. You can look at all of these different ranges, and you can have all of these jobs queued up, waiting to go in the system for you, and it will just automatically run and generate that data. But the key part is, obviously, you can only start to run those reports, or this type of report, once you've set your system up. Okay?
Regarding the contract, we can add the payment details of the contract.
Sorry, you can hide, did you say?
No. Add the contract, it's monthly payment details, whatever they paid, and remaining payment. Or
yeah, so because it's as a contract, because they're set up the same as budgets, those sorts of things, contracts are exactly the same. So you can raise your POs, you can raise your invoices against any of your contracts. Let's see if we've got anything in here. No, I've got no contract set up. If I do a right click, new companies, you can see on here, similar to a budget screen, contract termination date, contract renewals, and then you just basically, the only difference here is this section over here, and that you can plug it to a specific service provider. And then again, just the same as you would do with POs, contracts, invoices, you can actually start to charge against it, so it will show you outstanding amounts.
How will you change the currency?
Yes, well, your currency will be set to your local server. Okay?
okay.
No problem. So any other questions around that part of the system?
Regarding the contract, can we month end can we generate the report all regarding all contracts?
In terms of what spend, stuff like that? Is that in terms of spend?
No, it's contract details only all together regarding how many rooms they're having, and all the pending amounts all together.
Well, the contract's not going to have that information. Again, when you build the contract, as I said before, with anything, you'll just attach. So if I go into here, right click new contract, you'll just attach that document into here. So you can attach a document at any level of your system. So that will hold the finer points of it. This part of the system isn't to define how many rooms they have or anything like that. This is purely just a financial area to look at on the system. It's not going to invoice them, so you're not going to use it to invoice people for those contracts, anything like that. It is purely just a recording system to show you those contracts are in place. But any documents you hold against the contracts, yeah, just attach them as a document on the system.
Okay.
Okay.
Regarding the asset, so if we are removing or replacing the asset from any of the room,
yep.
Okay, and in that condition, after 1 year or 2 years, we can get the list of which the period of the material is removed or replaced from the room.
Yes, certainly, of course you can. I mean, obviously, if you go into it, you can have on here, you can have a replacement date, so you can report against a replacement date. But basically, all you really need to do with that asset, so let's say we're replacing this asset, all you basically need to do is, one, you could go in and copy that asset, and then literally it will put it into the new place. You could give it a new reference number, etc., and then save and close. So there's our two assets. This asset here is the one that's being replaced. Basically, all you need to do is, if I go back into it, come to the associations, you'll first of all make sure that you have no open work orders associated to that asset, so nothing is still open and due on there. It's not been assigned to a person or anything like that. And then all you need to do is right-click, hide that old asset. So you're not going to delete it off the system. The system won't let you delete it, but you hide it off the system, and then you have that asset ready to go for the new option. You can then see any of those hidden assets. As you can see, I don't know if you can see the difference, but it's slightly grayed out, okay, on the system. So black text and then gray text on here. So you can move and amend those assets. It may be that you're actually moving one asset from one building to another. Again, just a right click, you can move. If you've hidden it, you can unhide it, and it still remains reportable. Just to go back to the reports, if I go to assets, so let's say you've replaced an asset at the start of this, say February this year, for example. If that is the case, you still need to report on it for this financial year. You could go in and say, show me assets by group, go to the parameters, and you will see on an option here, it says asset status, live only. So an asset that is live only obviously is in the system, any hidden assets or all of your assets. So you can still report on all of that information as you need to.
Regarding the asset, so if we are replacing some material from some rooms today,
Yep.
Okay, in this case, after 1 year, can we trace this asset where it was?
Sorry, can you say that last bit again? I didn't quite catch that.
Actually, if we are removing some asset from the current room because of some reason, either technical issue or maintenance issue or some other reason, so in that case, after 1 year maybe, if we are finding this case asset, we can find out in this room there were this many items were before.
Yes, that's correct. So you will always see the history. You could go in. So let me just go in and I'm just going to move them just to show you. So I'll put all of these into my meeting room. Okay, so those assets are in the meeting room. So there's two ways of doing it. I can go into the system and say, come into my hierarchy. And as you can see here, I know I've got assets in here. I can open it up and say, show me the assets that are in that room. And it will only show me those assets. Or I could go to my asset register and say, I want to see all assets just in that room. So I've specifically filtered that search, and it will show you those assets. Within each asset, you have an event log, so you can see what's happened. So in this case, we can see that this was moved, where it was moved from, and now we know where it's been moved to. So the system will record all of that information for you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Questions a bit? What about the KPI? Now this is the question internally, just Andrew, a little bit. But you can do now the building, you are aware how to do the building, and you are aware how to mention each building in floor, the room number, and to put the tenants inside. You are aware of this 100%. And regarding the asset, so every room you can put that you have an air conditioner here, whatever you want to. Room-wise, room-wise, okay. And the same thing that as we ask assets to upload once asset upload same as template as to template. Yeah, the assets you cannot upload them more than one shot as you want. Can you ask it?
Mr. Andrew?
Yes, hello.
Is there any template for the same which we using
We can upload
the template for the asset list, which we are using to upload it upload in the system at one time.
Well, it will probably have changes on there. What you can do, if you send me a copy of that, I will have a look at it and tell you what needs to change, or I can then advise you what needs changing on it. But in terms of your hierarchy, you can start building your hierarchy now. The key part is that on your system, you will need to go to Import Toolkit, and there's this option down the bottom here that says Quick Startup Utility. On here, it's not going to ask you what you want to build. It's literally going to generate 2 templates. So this is going to generate it to my desktop. I'm just going to hit Generate Template, and I will show you what it generates. So we'll let that generate. And like I say, you can generate this from your system today, now, whenever you want to do it. But that's going to give you 2 sheets. One called Hierarchy, one called Help Desk. We'll start with the Hierarchy. What does that give you? Gives you a blank sheet. If I open these up, you'll see location, building, floor, zone, space, room, work group. Don't worry about these 2, room and work group. We only want to concentrate on location, building, floor, zone and space. We'll start with location. So that's your very top level. Just a description in there. So it could be London, for example. Okay, then we go to building. So first of all, we must copy that to there. Then we say description. Well, it could be building number 1. Reference can be the same as what you've got. Okay, and then the next one, we're going to copy these 2 fields and go into the floor because we need to paste those into there, and then we could go ground floor. If we've got multiple floors, oh, if I could spell floor, that is. Okay, so we've got our floors in. All you need to do, copy those bits down into there. We're then going to copy those, go into our zones, paste again. And this time, what you might want to do, okay, so I've created my zones for building number 1. Copy all of that again and go into spaces. Paste it across, and then I'm into my spaces. And you might have on here, let's take this out. So we might have room 1. All the way down. Okay. So that's my ground floor done. I can then go back to this and say pick up my first floor. Copy the list down. Okay, so you can build your hierarchy on here fairly quickly. Okay, does that make sense? So you can generate that today, and you could build your hierarchy in a couple of days using that. Just a simple process, starting at the left with location, then to building, then to floor, then to zone, then to space, so on and so forth as you go through. Once that's done, and you save that, I click save on there, I'll go back into here, and I'm just going to run that as an import. So we'll wait for that to import in. Okay, click close. No errors. Come out of here. Go back to it. Click refresh. You'll see there's my new location. There's my new building. There's my floors. There's my spaces. And there's my rooms showing on the system. Again, all shown there. So it's quite a quick, simple process. The basics still apply for people, those sorts of things as well. There's just a little bit more you need to do to it. And like I say, with the asset one, if you can send me a copy of your asset sheet, I'll have a look at that and come back to you on it.
Excuse me, can we repeat that one again regarding that room 1 to 15 you generated?
In terms of loading them, or?
Yes, instant loading them.
Okay, so you start, so back to obviously having generated your spreadsheet.
Yes, yes.
Let me just clear all of this.
This is actually the template, is it?
Sorry?
This is the template, is it?
Yep. So this is, you've got this available on your system to do this today. So starting with it in your hierarchy quick startup, put in your location, put in the reference. You only need to do this once because obviously there's only one location. Copy that across to the building. So where is the building located? Well, it's located in my location of Portsmouth. What's the building called? Give it a name. Copy location and description. Go to floor. Paste it in. Location, Portsmouth, description, name. Description of the floor. Well, I'm going to do 3 floors again. So ground floor. Okay. Copy that down because I want to do first floor. Second floor. And then we're into our zones. So I'm going to copy across the first floor first of all. Paste it in. Well, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll take them all across. It makes it easier. So in here, I'm going to copy my floors because that's what I'm using as zones. And I'll just stick zone on the end. Once you've done that, now pick up all of that information, go to your space and say, well, my first floor I'm populating is going to be my ground floor, and I'm going to have room 1, and I'll copy that down to room 15. Once I've done that, I need to copy the location, building, floor description and paste it in. And you repeat that for the number of floors, the number of zones that you have. Once you have done that, save it. Once saved, go back into CAFM, go to Tools, go to your Import Toolkit and down to Quick Start. And this time we don't need to generate the template, we're just running the import back in the other way. That will run through and import that data into the system. It will just give you a little warning and then it starts to build that information. Okay, once you've done that, close, no errors. Come out of there, hit refresh on here. As you can see, there's my location of Portsmouth. There's my building. There's my floors. There's my zone. And below my zone, there are my spaces. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
I saw one option generating templates. Can we use that one?
So yeah, you can use the option here. So on the import toolkit, on this startup, yes, you will need to generate those templates because the templates have to come from CAFM. But the only templates it will give you is this one, which is your hierarchy setup, and this one, which is your help desk setup. Those are the only two templates it will generate for you. Okay?
Okay.
And
excuse me, within the room, we made now the room 1 to 15.
yep.
Okay. So within the room, we can make the space for the tenants' name details.
Within here, no, you won't need to do that because when you've created the person, so in here, my person, let me pick this one. So if I pick myself, you're going to say located at, if I go into here and say Portsmouth, building name, floor, okay, go into there. I'm now in room 1. Okay, done and dusted. If I open room 1, can you see the yellow folder for the people? Click on that and it will have the list of all the people that are in that room.
Okay.
Okay. So as long as when you add the people, so the key part is you've obviously got to build your hierarchy first before you add your people. Once you start adding your people to specific locations, they will start to populate in this area. Again, you can run reports against people and spaces. So people by location. And you will see the options in here. Again, if I click on this one to Portsmouth, you can see me directly located where I'm located. Okay. So it allows you to...
Currently we have 15 rooms we made now. So within the 15 room, as per our capacity, there will be, we can allocate 150 employees.
Yes.
So in this, we can segregate by nationality.
You can't run a report because the key part is to the system. You can only report on, in this case, these fields. Even though you've put in on the system, maybe if I go in here, down here that we might have nationality, passport number, those, you cannot report on those fields. If you wanted to report on those fields, you would need to request that a custom report is built for you.
So we cannot filter by nationality.
No, not unless you decide that you want to change one of these. So here, see for example, this line here is personnel grade. Okay, but again, you need to be able to check that there is a report that runs on there. Let's see. Let's change it to that. Select sorting option, sort by last name. No. Availability, personnel grade. So yeah, so if you wanted this one here, personnel grade, let me just show you. Let me close that down for a moment. Tools. Personnel grade. Let's. Oh. Nationality. Save and close. Okay. We'll wait for that to update. So if I go to my reference data now, I should have a new box called nationality. Right click, new, company level. Okay, put my company, or put my nationalities in. Go back to the people now, retrieve it. Go to here, go to the next page. Nationalities, you can see it's changed. So British, save and close. If I now go and reopen CAFM reports, into people by name, can we do location? Let's have a look, what have we got on here? There you go, can you see it's changed that to nationality as well? So you can either have them by name or by location. And we'll say, right, we only want to see there you go. So you would have to rename a box that you're not going to use, but yes, you could do that.
Can we make the list of the total tenants list? That means even within the 15 rooms, maybe if for example, if there is a 140 employees there, so can we take the list of 140 employee altogether at a time?
So I'm not sure what you mean.
That means our total tenants list. That means even one room.
Yep.
In case there is a 8 person, even in that case 8 room, there is each room 8 person is there. Can we take the total number of people details?
Yeah, of course you can. Literally, this is obviously, in this case, I've filtered it against just the nationality of everybody that's British. If I leave it blank, it will show me everything. So it would show me everybody that's in the system. And if you come right to the bottom, you'll get your total number of people. So broken down by building names in the system, it will show you that. If you start to use parameters on here, then it's obviously going to start to cut down what information it shows you. If you leave it blank, yes, it's going to show you everything.
Okay.
Okay.
It is given by the CAFM Explorer. This template as the headings can be changed according to our requirements.
Currently, our manually created list of the employee actually per room base. I just give the example to you. It's like that. Building number 1.
Yep.
The building number 1, floor number. That means a floor, first floor, second floor, ground floor.
Yep.
After that, even in the first floor, there is a rooms 1 to 15. So within 1 to 15, there is room number 1. There is a 10 employee. Like that is our manually created created template.
Okay.
So each employee is coming like this: nationality, religion, grade within the company.
Yep.
The company name, departments, and remarks.
Okay.
All those things are there in our manually created template. The same is in the Excel sheet actually.
Okay.
This same Excel sheet, if we can import to the software, it will be very easy for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've got, there's two ways of doing this. If you at this moment in time, you could either, like I say, you could either get a custom report written that will bring that information out. But if you're going to have the import-export toolkit, you can export that list of people every month. It's not a problem.
Mr. Andrew, I have our current list. Can I send to you that one for the sample through mail?
Yeah, sure, of course you can. Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay. Okay, I will send to you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, stick that with the assets and I'll have a look at it for you. That's fine.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any questions?
So presently, what we are requesting from your side, the template for the room list, template for the asset,
Yep.
template for the work order.
Yep.
These three templates we are actually required because around our figure of the employees and our asset count is very, very huge.
Okay.
We have around 5,000 more employees over here and with the data, and assets are more than 10,000.
Okay.
Even the work order currently this many year we generated many, and per day we are getting around 200 to 300 complaints. So in this case, if there is a template, it's very much usable.
Yeah, certainly you can. I mean, again, this all goes down to the advanced toolkit stuff, which I'll get the details and stuff sorted for. But yeah, you can import the 10,000 assets is nothing, to be honest with you, on the system. On this system, it will cope with 10,000 assets, no problem at all, being imported. So yeah, the options are there to be able to import that, same as employees, all of those sorts of things. You can get them into the system. It's not an issue using the advanced toolkit import. Okay.
Okay, so we will send that asset, the template, currently what we are manually using.
Yep.
So then I just send that what kind of modification if you can do in that for our purpose to the implement add to the system.
Yep.
So you can do the changes as per that. So then later on we can use the same for the future. Is it?
Certainly. Yep. No problem. Cool. No problem. Is there any other questions from anybody? Okay.
I think we'll try to use it, and if we have any question later on, we might communicate through email.
Yes, certainly. Of course, you've got my email contact details, so feel free to, if you've got questions. Like I say, I will also obviously I'll package up this recording, and I'll send that to you so you can review that. If there's any bits you want to look at, again, obviously send me over those template stuff, and I'll speak to Joe, and we'll get the ball rolling for your advanced toolkit stuff, so you can get everything done.
And we will start building our tree. And regarding the templates, Aaron is going to send it to you. And if it's easy to upload this template, then we'll see the tree how it looks like. Because honestly, we are not going to start live until you check everything that it's okay, we can run live. And later on, the guys will be working. And in case you have any question, then we'll ask for support. And if we need another session for training or whatever, later on we'll ask for it.
No problem at all.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank
no
you.
problem. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll get all the stuff sent to you as soon as. All right. Take care now.